Welcome to the deep dive.
Hello.
Forget that endless scrolling, that feeling of information overload. We're here to really pull out the knowledge that matters.
That's the idea.
And today we're diving deep into our emotional landscapes, exploring how we navigate them.
Yeah, and specifically looking at journaling as a tool.
But with a really interesting angle, using an AI audio journaling app, Chosn. How that can be a bit of a game changer.
Exactly. If you're looking for a way to understand your emotions better, maybe more efficiently, without getting bogged down in all the self-help jargon.
Right. Something practical.
That's our goal today. Give you practical insights backed by some solid research and really see how a tool like Chosn fits into that picture.
And we've really dug into some quite insightful work for this one.
We have.
We'll be looking at the core ideas of Dr. Susan David. She's a leading voice from Harvard Medical School on emotional agility. Crucial concept.
Absolutely. And also tapping into the expertise of Dr. Marc Brackett from Yale. He wrote Permission to Feel, a real giant in the emotional intelligence field.
Okay, so their findings, combined with this idea of audio journaling using Chosn, it feels like a really compelling way to get a handle on our feelings.
It really does.
Okay, so let's start maybe by unpacking Dr. Susan David. What exactly does she mean by emotional agility?
Well, Dr. David's work really centers on this idea that emotional agility is fundamental to thriving.
Thriving.
Yeah, it's about how effectively we deal with our internal world. Our thoughts, our emotions, the stories we tell ourselves about things. And the opposite of that, she argues, is rigidity. That's where we get kind of locked into these unhelpful patterns. Autopilot.
Right, those automatic responses that don't really help us.
Exactly. They don't align with our values or, our actual goals.
Can you give an example of that rigidity?
Sure. Like maybe you constantly tell yourself, oh, I'm just not creative, even when you've had ideas that worked. That's a rigid story. Or maybe, after a stressful workday, you just automatically shut down and ignore your partner, even though connection is actually really important to you. That's a rigid habit.
Okay, I see. So agility is the opposite of being stuck like that.
Precisely. And what's really insightful in her perspective is how she reframes difficult emotions.
How so?
Well, instead of just seeing them as negative things to, push away or get rid of.
Yeah, which is tempting.
Totally. She suggests they often carry really vital information, clues about what truly matters to us, our values.
Okay, so the bad feelings aren't just bad.
Not necessarily. For instance, that pang of sadness after maybe a disagreement with a friend, that could be pointing straight to how much you value that connection.
Right.
Or feeling guilty because you missed your kid's game. Maybe that highlights your value of being present. Even boredom, that restlessness.
Yeah.
That could be signaling a core value like growth or learning that isn't being met right now.
So the key is to lean in a bit. Ask, okay, what's this feeling actually telling me about what I care about instead of just trying to squash it?
Exactly that. And Dr. David points out two really common but ultimately unhelpful ways we deal with tough emotions.
HR.
Bottling, pushing them down, trying to stay positive all the time.
The stiff upper lip.
Right. Or brooding, just getting completely stuck in them, ruminating, going round and round in circles.
Okay.
And she argues both of those approaches, bottling and brooding, they actually lead to lower well-being in the long run. They don't resolve anything.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. It feels like you're either trying to hold a beach ball underwater, which takes effort,
Right.
or you're just getting totally swept away by the wave.
Yeah.
So what's the emotionally agile alternative?
Emotional agility encourages us to, as she puts it, show up to those difficult emotions.
Show up.
Yeah. Show up, but with kindness and curiosity towards yourself. It's about acknowledging the feeling first. Just saying to yourself, okay, I'm feeling anxious about this presentation or whatever it is, without judging yourself for feeling it.
So acceptance first.
Acceptance and curiosity that allows you to start understanding its message, like we talked about, and figure out, okay, what might actually help here? What resources do I have?
Okay, so accept, understand, and then the action part comes in. That's where this idea of walking your why fits, doesn't it?
Precisely. Walking your why is all about consciously connecting our actions back to our core values, what really matters to us.
Why is that connection so important?
Because that's what fuels real, sustained motivation. It helps us create change that actually feels meaningful, not just like ticking boxes. Dr. David makes this great distinction between have-to goals and want-to goals.
Okay.
Have-to goals feel like obligations. Things we feel forced to do. Want-to goals, though, are rooted in our values. Things we choose because they align with who we want to be.
And those want-to goals are the ones that stick.
Much more likely, yes. They keep us engaged and lead to a deeper sense of fulfillment.
That really clicks for me. I know I'm way more likely to follow through on something if it feels genuinely aligned with what I believe in, rather than just, something I should do.
Exactly.
And Dr. David also talks about the power of small steps, right? These tiny tweaks.
Yes, tiny tweaks. She emphasizes that you don't always need massive overhauls. Small, deliberate actions, consistently made, but guided by your values. They can create really significant positive shifts.
Especially in relationships, she mentioned.
Absolutely. Think about it in relationships. She connects this to Dr. Gottman's research on bids for connection. Those small moments of reaching out. Making tiny, value-driven adjustments regularly.
Yeah.
Like choosing to listen actively for 5 minutes when your partner gets home because you value connection that can really strengthen bonds over time.
Okay, and this ties into something else interesting. How our values can act like an internal compass, especially under pressure.
That's a really important point. Think about social contagion, how easily we can get swept up in the mood or actions of a group.
Yeah, happens all the time.
Or just stressful situations where your first instinct might be to react defensively or maybe just follow what everyone else is doing. Dr. David suggests that by consciously pausing and reconnecting with our own core values in those moments, asking what really matters to me here, we create a kind of internal anchor.
An anchor. I like that.
Yeah, it helps guide our choices so we're not just reacting or being swayed in ways that don't feel authentic or right for us. It protects us a bit from the emotional noise.
So ultimately, emotional agility is about making choices where our actions and values line up. It's about congruence.
That's a great way to put it. Congruence between values and actions. Intentional choices.
Okay, that gives us a really solid understanding of emotional agility from Dr. David. Now, let's bring in Dr. Marc Brackett and this related but distinct concept of emotional intelligence.
Right. Dr. Brackett, leading professor at Yale, author of Permission to Feel. He gives us another really crucial lens.
And how does he define emotional intelligence?
He defines it essentially as our ability to reason with and about feelings, both our own and other people.
Reason with feelings. Okay.
Yeah, it means understanding how emotions influence our thinking and behavior, and how our thinking influences our emotions. It's a dynamic interplay.
And he has that framework, ruler, right, to help us actually build these skills.
Yes, the ruler framework. It's a really practical roadmap, an acronym for 5 key skills of emotional intelligence.
Let's break it down. R is?
Recognizing emotions. That's the first step. Just identifying what you're feeling and what others might be feeling.
How do we do that?
By tuning in, paying attention to internal cues, but also external ones like facial expressions, body language, tone of voice. Just noticing.
Okay. R is recognizing. U.
U is for understanding emotions. This goes beyond just noticing. It's about grasping the why. What caused this feeling? What might its consequences be?
So cause and effect of emotions.
Exactly. How might this anger affect my decision-making right now? Why did that comment make me feel defensive? That kind of thing.
Got it. Then L, labeling. That sounds important.
It really is. Labeling is about using precise language to describe our feelings, moving beyond just good or bad or stressed.
Like emotional granularity.
Precisely. Emotional granularity. Are you feeling overwhelmed or pressured or maybe anxious or frustrated? They're all different flavors of stress, right?
Definitely.
And Dr. Brackett has that tool, the mood meter. It plots emotions based on energy level high to low and pleasantness, pleasant to unpleasant.
How does that help with labeling?
It gives you categories and words. High energy, unpleasant might be anger or fear. Low energy, unpleasant could be sadness or disappointment. High energy, pleasant is joy or excitement. Low energy, pleasant might be calm or content.
I can see how that would expand your vocabulary. And you mentioned using this with Chosn.
Yeah, imagine after you've done an audio entry in Chosn, just talking things out, maybe a prompt comes up asking you to pinpoint your feeling on that mood meter.
Ah, so it encourages active labeling, right there.
Exactly. High energy, pleasant, maybe elated. Low energy, unpleasant, perhaps gloomy. It helps you get specific about the actual feeling, not just a general state.
Okay, that makes sense. So RULE is next, expressing.
Expressing emotions, yes. This is about knowing when and how to communicate what you're feeling in an appropriate way.
Appropriate being the key word there.
Absolutely. Depends on the context, the relationship, social norms, cultural factors. It's about skillful expression, not just letting it all hang out whenever.
Right. And finally, the second R in ruler.
Regulating emotions.
Beside.
This is often what people first think of with emotional intelligence, managing your feelings.
Controlling them.
Maybe managing or modifying is better than controlling. It's about developing healthy strategies to navigate your emotional responses. How to maybe amplify positive feelings or how to cope effectively with difficult ones so they don't overwhelm you. Promoting your well-being.
Okay, ruler. Recognize, understand, label, express, regulate. That's a really clear framework.
It is.
And it's amazing just how far-reaching these skills are. Dr. Brackett's research really shows they impact almost everything, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. His work and the work of others in the field clearly shows that emotional intelligence significantly influences, well, loads of things.
Like what?
Your ability to pay attention, your memory, how effectively you learn, the quality of your decisions, your creativity, even your physical health is linked. And mental health, obviously.
And relationships, too, presumably.
Huge impact on relationships, building them, maintaining them, and performance, too, whether that's at school or at work.
You mentioned work. Something about leaders.
Yes, that was fascinating research. Brackett found clear correlations. People working for leaders perceived as emotionally intelligent reported feeling more inspired.
Okay.
They also felt less frustrated, were less likely to say they intended to leave their job, and experienced lower levels of burnout.
Wow. So a leader's emotional intelligence really cascades down.
It really does. It highlights how crucial these skills are, not just for individuals, but for teams and organizations, too.
And it sounds like the foundation for all of this ruler stuff, especially regulation, has to be self-awareness. Knowing what you're feeling in the first place.
That is absolutely critical. Dr. Brackett really emphasizes this. Regularly checking in with yourself. How am I feeling right now? What might have triggered that? That's the essential starting point. You can't regulate what you don't recognize or understand.
Makes sense.
And he also talks about being a feelings mentor for others.
A feelings mentor. What's that?
It means listening with compassion, without jumping in to judge or fix. Just creating that safe space for someone else to explore their emotions, which in turn helps build stronger, more supportive relationships.
Okay, this is all incredibly valuable stuff from both Dr. David and Dr. Brackett. Now, let's really make the connection. How does the actual practice of audio journaling, specifically using an app like Chosn, help us develop this agility and intelligence day to day?
That's the key question, isn't it? How do we bridge theory and practice? And audio journaling with Chosn offers some really interesting advantages here. Well, first off, accessibility. Let's be honest, sometimes sitting down to write long, coherent journal entries feels like work.
Yeah, another thing on the to-do list.
Exactly. With audio journaling, you can just speak, talk it out. You don't need perfect sentences or punctuation.
Yeah.
It lowers the barrier to regular self-reflection quite a bit.
Just press record and talk.
Pretty much. And because Chosn captures your actual voice, the tone, the pace, hesitations, maybe even background noise, it creates a much richer snapshot of your emotional state in that moment.
More than just words on a page.
Definitely. When you listen back, maybe later that day or even weeks later, you might hear nuances in your voice, a slight waver, a flatness, a sudden energy that reveal emotions you weren't fully conscious of at the time.
Ah, that's interesting, like an extra layer of data.
Exactly. It provides this uniquely powerful insight that written words alone might not capture.
And I guess listening back over time could really highlight patterns, too. Recurring themes or triggers.
Precisely. You might start noticing, wow, I sound really drained every Tuesday afternoon, or I get really animated when I talk about this particular project. It's like creating your own personal audio log of your inner world, which builds self-awareness over time.
So you could use Chosn for just general reflection, getting things off your chest.
Absolutely. Broad reflections on your day, relationships, worries, hopes, whatever's on your mind.
But it can also be used more intentionally to build those ruler skills we talked about.
Yes, that's where it gets really powerful. Think about how Chosn's features can directly support ruler.
Okay.
How? Well, many apps like Chosn have things like regular mood check-ins. Using that feature actively encourages recognizing and labeling your emotions, maybe even using that mood meter framework we discussed.
Right, prompting you to name the feeling.
Exactly. And guided journaling prompts within Chosn can be specifically designed to help you explore the causes and consequences of your feelings, hitting the understanding part of ruler.
Prompts like, what led to this feeling? Or, how is this feeling affecting you?
Things like that, yes. Then, simply by reflecting on how you're expressing yourself in your audio entries, your tone, your words, you can become more aware of your typical expression patterns. Do they align with your goals, your values?
Self-monitoring your expression.
Kinda, yeah. And finally, for regulation, some apps might offer built-in guided exercises or link to resources for managing difficult emotions right when you might need them after an entry.
So it can become a comprehensive tool for practicing emotional intelligence.
It really can integrate those skills into a regular habit.
And what about emotional agility? How does audio journaling with Chosn support Dr. David's ideas?
It aligns really well there, too. Remember, showing up to your emotions.
Yeah, with kindness and curiosity.
The simple act of hitting record on Chosn and speaking about whatever you're feeling, even if it's messy or uncomfortable, is a form of showing up. It's acknowledging it.
Okay, the recording itself is step one.
Exactly. And then listening back later. That can facilitate stepping out, gaining that bit of perspective, that distance from the immediate intensity of the emotion, seeing it a little more objectively.
Right, creating space.
And prompts within Chosn can absolutely be geared towards reflecting on your values, helping you walk your why. Maybe asking what really mattered to me today, or how did my actions align with my value of X? And from those reflections, it can prompt you to identify those small value-aligned steps, the moving on part, based on the insights you've gained.
So it's a container for the whole emotional agility process. Show up, step out, walk your why, move on.
It can certainly support each of those stages in a very practical way.
It does sound really accessible. Do we have like real stories or examples of people finding this helpful? Synthesized, of course.
Yeah, we do. We've heard about individuals who find audio journaling just incredibly helpful for dealing with racing thoughts. There are those times when your mind is buzzing, but you feel too exhausted or overwhelmed to actually sit and write it all down.
Just speaking it out is easier.
Much easier for them. Just getting it out verbally provides relief. We've also heard anecdotes from people who've listened back to much older audio entries. And found it a really cool glimpse into the past, as one person put it. Like being transported back, appreciating who they were then, the challenges they overcame, the things they were excited about, a connection to their past self.
That's quite poignant.
It can be. And others have mentioned how consistent audio journaling helped them become much more aware of recurring patterns. Maybe a tendency to hyper-focus on certain worries or cycles in their mood they hadn't consciously recognized before, just hearing it consistently logged.
So increased self-awareness through listening back.
Definitely a common theme.
These are really compelling examples. Okay, let's make it super practical. If someone listening wants to start using Chosn, maybe today, to build their emotional agility and intelligence, what are some concrete first steps?
Okay, practical steps. First and foremost, consistency. Try to make audio journaling with Chosn a regular habit, even if it's just for a few minutes each day. That regularity builds the foundation.
Start small, but be consistent.
Exactly. Second, if Chosn has a mood check-in feature, use it actively. Don't just skip it. Take a moment to recognize and label how you're feeling.
Engage with the features.
Right. Third, utilize any guided journaling prompts that help you explore the why behind your emotions, the causes and consequences. Dig a little deeper into understanding.
Don't just vent, explore.
Good way to put it. Fourth, occasionally, maybe once a week, reflect specifically in your journal entry about how you typically express your emotions. Does it serve you well? Does it align with your values?
Self-reflection on expression. Okay.
Fifth, if you hit a challenging emotion and if Chosn offers regulation tools or prompts, actually try them out. See what works for you in managing those tough feelings. Experiment with regulation strategies.
Be proactive in regulation.
Yeah. Sixth, make it a point to regularly reflect on what made your day or week feel worthwhile or meaningful. This helps you identify and connect with your core values, the walking your why part.
Focus on the positives and the values, too.
Definitely. And finally, seventh, based on your reflections, prompt yourself. What's one small action, one tiny tweak I can make tomorrow to move closer to how I want to feel or to live more aligned with my values? Identify that next small step.
Okay, those are really actionable steps. Consistency, labeling, understanding, reflecting on expression, regulating, connecting to values, and identifying small actions.
It covers a lot of ground, drawing on both Dr. David's and Dr. Brackett's work.
Fantastic. So just to bring this all together, it feels really clear that, deliberately working on our emotional agility and intelligence pays huge dividends.
No doubt.
And using regular self-reflection, especially with a tool like Chosn that makes it easier and adds that layer of vocal nuance, seems like a really effective pathway.
It provides structure and accessibility.
Ultimately, understanding and navigating our emotions better just leads to a more fulfilling, more effective, and definitely more connected life, doesn't it?
It really does. It impacts everything.
So maybe a final thought for you listening.
Yeah, I'd encourage you to think about maybe one emotion you've been perhaps avoiding lately, or maybe just not giving much attention to.
Okay.
Consider using Chosn, that private supportive space, just to explore it a little. Ask yourself gently, what might this feeling be trying to signal? Is there an underlying value it's connected to? And then maybe think, what's just one small, values-driven step you could consider taking based on that reflection? No pressure, just a curious exploration.
That's a really powerful invitation to end on. Explore an avoided emotion. See what it's telling you.
Exactly.
And if you are intrigued by this, if you want to explore the benefits of audio journaling for yourself and try Chosn, you can actually get started for free.
That's great.
Just call the toll-free number, 888-576-5669.
Let's repeat that.
Sure, it's 888-576-5669.
It's 1-888-JRNL, N now W. Makes it easy to remember.
1-888-JRNL, N now W. Give it a call. See if audio journaling resonates with you.
Thanks so much for taking this deep dive with us today into emotional agility, intelligence, and the power of audio journaling. My pleasure. It was a great discussion.